Going into To My Star, I assumed it would display a similar pattern of events as all the other Korean BLs have shown us, time and time again. It would be loaded with underdeveloped storylines as some floppy attempt to keep my attention, and the pacing would suffer for it. But To My Star showed me something different, something beautiful and worth sharing. Even if I'm incredibly late to the party, with Season 2 having released way before I'm getting this video out, I want to discuss the KPL that, in my opinion, set the standard. Thanks to the absolute legend Hwang Dae-sil, who brilliantly directed To My Star, the synopsis was refreshingly simple while somehow being able to explore great lengths of character depth. I was able to watch the romance unfold without being distracted by useless subplots. To My Star really had a knack for focusing on its main story, while still giving its incredible supporting cast tons of interest. I don't think I'm going to be shocking anyone when I say that Korean BLs are not particularly known for having a huge budget or large amounts of screen time. So imagine my surprise when throughout the entirety of the show, I was nothing but impressed. Its brilliant writing ensured that nothing felt out of character for the sake of adding drama, but instead, every choice someone made could be traced to the very core of their character, their experiences, and their personal values. When I tell you I was head over heels for this little web series, it was incredible. To My Star built incredibly tangible characters, and their actions were set up perfectly from the beginning. It fostered an environment where you could become really invested in its simple premise without having to overlook a lot of that deep characterization and thought that went into it. In the first few scenes, we're shown a glimpse of Kang Seo-jun's current life. On the surface, he appears to be a stuck-up celebrity type, as he's pretty well known in the industry. On the other hand, we have Han Ji-woo, a chef at a local restaurant. He's very much the independent type, as his life is shown to be surrounded by the other's constant belittlement. Our two characters collide when Seo-jun, looking to avoid having to pee in a bottle, rushes into the restaurant Ji-woo works at. He promptly asks the young chef to make him something quick while he uses the bathroom, and despite the restaurant not even being open yet, Ji-woo complies as to not drag out the interaction. Some time passes, and Seo-jun finally arrives at his temporary refuge. But here's the kicker. The current tenant of the home is our beloved chef Han Ji-woo, who, funnily enough, seems to be unaware of his new living situation. Obviously, a meet-cute is nothing out of the ordinary for a romantic comedy, but I feel like the strangers dynamic, where one of them knows who the other is and the other has no idea, it really sets up a good breeding ground for whatever dynamic they'll have later. I don't even know how to describe it to you. The two butt heads right away, as it appears Seo-jun's overwhelming need to spout whatever's on his mind directly interferes with Ji-woo's interact as little as possible mindset. He decides almost immediately that because their arrangement is only temporary, and a disgraced celebrity is no one that he needs to be getting involved with, there's no need for fake politeness, and it's better for him to just keep his distance. What I find truly beautiful is the story's ability to show Ji-woo start to open up in a subtle and nonchalant way. In these moments, even without saying anything of much importance, the two are able to loosen up around one another. It's such an incredibly real-feeling sequence, and the natural flow of Ji-woo's confidence is delightful. I feel like Kim Kang-min really nails it with the micro-expressions, and I feel like some people fail to understand Ji-woo as a character, but those micro-expressions really add to this compassionate undertone that you wouldn't see if you just looked at Ji-woo on a surface level, I guess. It's these touches of personality added to Ji-woo's actions that really show his respect for Seo-jun beginning to blossom. Things like the smiles Ji-woo tries not to let escape during the basketball scenes, the way he instinctively covers up the vandalized image of Seo-jun as they both walk by, the way his gaze never shifts from the other, even when lost in a sea of self-doubt. For God's sake, even in the very beginning, he makes a mental note of Seo-jun's dislike for eggs and then continues to avoid them. Are you kidding me right now? A similar thing can be said for Seo-jun, of course. Even when he finds Ji-woo to be harsh and unwelcoming, he makes a conscious effort to tidy up, take care of all the food waste, and shower before bed. Keep in mind, Seo-jun is not the pushover type. He's not going to be bossed around by some random asshole whose house he invaded. Instead, he's going to try to befriend a random asshole whose house he invaded. On the topic of Ji-woo, I feel like it goes without saying that body language is one of the most essential things to his character. To me, Ji-woo's love presents itself as acts of service. As their friendship begins to develop, we start to see a warmer, more protective side of Ji-woo through small gestures, whether this be clipping Seo-jun's nails or making him the food he asked for, despite things being uncomfortable between the two. After learning about Seo-jun's love of space, he decorates their home with galaxy tapestries and a floor mat disguised as the moon. These small things, though subtle, are meaningful and observant. The writers make it extremely clear that for what Ji-woo lacks in words, he makes up for in other ways. For Ji-woo, actions speak louder than words. I would also say that it's pretty obvious Sojin's love language is quality time. What the man wants more than anything is just to be around you. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Simply being on dish duty while his partner preps a meal is more than enough. In the early stages of their friendship, Sojin, against his better judgment, finds himself wanting to call Jiwoo all the time. He eagerly awaits his return from work even before they were established friends, and continues to do so every day following. I've noticed a large amount of people express a dislike for how drastically different Sojin and Jiwoo are as people. And while it's true that they have very different ways of handling things, I think that their willingness to combat and overcome those differences is what brings them together so beautifully. Sojin is seen to really struggle with his mental health, more specifically his anxiety. What Sojin needed was a reason to keep going, something to remind him every day that his very existence has more value than a bunch of dollar signs. Jiwoo is exactly that. His shockingly nurturing nature is able to offer Sojin a sense of comfort he never had before, a home. Even though Sojin is extremely used to speaking his mind and being completely honest with himself, he learns to approach Jiwoo with patience and impulse control, while Jiwoo, overwhelmed by self-doubt and fear of abandonment, is able to finally convince himself he deserves to take Sojin's hand. Nothing proves how strong their dynamic is more than Sojin's confession. During Sojin's confession, Jiwoo stays in isolation. Sojin confronts him again, saying you should at least acknowledge someone's feelings, even if you don't like them. That back and forth continues for a while, despite everything pointing to Sojin having nothing but genuine intent. Jiwoo is stuck in this mindset that if he lets this continue, he'll end up vulnerable and exposed. At this point, Sojin has every right to leave Jiwoo alone, to leave him to his own despondency, but he doesn't. Jiwoo pushes back time and time again, but every time, Sojin persists twice as hard. Sojin is continuously able to see through Jiwoo's cold exterior, and without a second thought, he offers him his companionship. Given time, Jiwoo's body language slowly changes from assertive to unsure, and through a final outburst of pent-up emotion, an act that makes it so suddenly clear to Sojin what this is really about, he says,
너도 그냥 다른 사람들이랑 다 똑같이 혼자 아등바등 거리면서 사니까 혼자 그러니까!
He breaks, and his voice fades out. He's not angry at Sojin, he knows that, and clearly having given the false confidence a rest, he turns away. Despite his best efforts to defend himself, he's out in the open now. There's no wall to protect him this time. Sojin knows that as well as he does. He then puts his grievances aside to focus on Jiwoo, knowing that the underlying problem is bigger than both of them. And in a moment of sheer kindness, he wraps the other in a tight embrace, providing safety and confrontation simultaneously. He continues, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. He could have gotten angry at Jiwoo. He could have used this opportunity to talk about how he felt, but he doesn't. Of course, he's not looking to push Jiwoo, he just wants him to know that he sees him. And time again, Sojin's kindness will call out to Jiwoo. We get to see this dynamic again, when during the series climax, Jiwoo finds his self-sabotaging habits getting the best of him, as he attempts to remove Sojin from his life completely. But, against his better judgment, he stands paralyzed as he goes, conflicted by the desire to have Sojin in his life and the belief that pushing him away will save him from what he deems to be an inevitable abandonment. When Jiwoo has a hard time accepting that someone actually wants to be a part of his life, accepting that the people and relationships in his life can be more than temporary, it's in times like these where Sojin wraps him in a blanket of patience and says, Jiwoo, if this is hard for you, I'll come to you. With that one sentence, Sojin's incredible drive of understanding is able to say that it is okay to be scared, to not be able to say it out loud. He understands that for Jiwoo, it's about falling completely backwards and trusting another person will catch you. He recognizes that Jiwoo's walls have been built over time, and it's going to take time to fully break them down, but regardless, he continues, with the promise of patience and understanding. My favorite thing about To My Star as a whole is its story. While yes, it is a romantic comedy that has a sprinkling of angst in there, I think its real message is saying that people are not one-dimensional. People are healing, changing, and growing at a constant rate. They're incredibly diverse and messy, and despite all those things, there is a person out there. A person out there who will understand that. Honestly, this essay has been a long time in the making. I want to say it's been about 4 or 5 months. Can't be too sure. I definitely plan on making a video essay talking about Season 2, because that definitely expands upon the depth of this series. Honestly, I think Season 2 is the best thing that could have happened to My Star. So, if you are interested in seeing that, make sure to let me know. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye!